We did it. Leading XCOM to victory in a last-ditch effort, we finally beat the aliens back and ended the war for Earth, protecting our freedom and proving that when humanity bands together for a common cause, we can triumph against overwhelming adversity. But in another world, one where the commander vanished without explanation, XCOM failed to stop the invasion. The aliens quickly overpowered what remained of the now leaderless organization and took over the planet, installing themselves in positions of power worldwide and establishing Advent. This military organization is made up of both aliens and genetically modified human soldiers, and they crush any pockets of resistance before they can pose a threat. That's where we return to this world we left behind so long ago, as the few remaining XCOM loyalists on the run launch Operation Gatecrasher. Our objective is to get into the center of the city and detonate the Advent Monument. The blast will remind our alien overseers that they're not welcome here, and also serve as a distraction as an operative sneaks behind enemy lines and rescues the commander from the enemy's clutches. Our units running this diversion are Jeremy Nichols, Rebecca Crawford, Yvonne Pina, and Lisa Sullivan. As they get ready to take on this mission, I want to talk about concealment. This is a new mechanic to XCOM 2. Since we're no longer constantly on the defense and always reacting to our enemy's movements, we can take advantage of the element of surprise when we strike. In missions where they don't see us coming, our soldiers start a mission concealed. Where in the last game, spotting an enemy would reveal our own position to them, causing them to run for cover and fight back, we can now sneak up on our foes and ambush them, setting up synchronized attacks that could kill a full group of enemies before they can properly react to our presence. In concealment, we see the enemy's sight range, so we know where it's safe to move without being spotted. Reactions don't trigger unless the enemy discovers us, so enemies patrolling calmly won't cause a soldier on Overwatch to open fire. As such, we can sneak up on these 3 starting guards, set 3 of our soldiers on Overwatch, and get the 4th to open fire, beginning the fight. As the enemies split up and run for cover, our Overwatch soldiers take their shots too. But one gets away, and nearly kills Jeremy with a critical hit. After I run him to safety to prevent an early death on my hands, the rest of the mission actually goes pretty smoothly. We eliminate the rest of the foes, plant the explosive, and bring down the statue. We also claim an autoloader from an enemy soldier's weapon. This is a secret tool that'll help us later. Returning to base, our soldiers get their first promotions, and with them their class assignments. Jeremy becomes a Grenadier, the equivalent to last game's Heavy, and gains a grenade launcher that lets him carry 2 grenades at once, fire them further than they can be thrown, and improve their blast radius. Yvonne becomes a Specialist, the support class, and gains a Gremlin drone and aid protocol, which will send the drone to hang out near an allied character to boost their defense for a turn. Lisa becomes a Ranger, the assault class, and gets a sword with which she can strike at close ranges for pretty decent damage. Finally, Rebecca becomes a sharpshooter and gains the classic squad sight perk. With the commander, that's me, successfully rescued during the distraction, they bring me back to the Avenger. This abandoned alien ship has been reclaimed and turned into a mobile base of operations to make it harder for Advent to track us down. On board, I'm introduced to Richard Teigen, an ex-Advent scientist who is now working against them, and Lily Shen, the daughter of our previous engineer, following in his footsteps to bring XCOM back from the brink of defeat. Of course, they're also joined by John Bradford, Central, who continues to be my right-hand man for this new battle. With the team assembled and ready to start the task of taking down Advent, we get to work. I order construction of a training center, build our classic medkit to pass off to one of the field soldiers, and begin research on modular weapons in order to make use of that weapon part we claimed in the first mission. Getting myself acquainted with the rest of the ship, it's all pretty standard stuff, though I do discover we have a spot in the armory where we seem to mount the heads of every enemy we kill. That's pretty fucking metal. The Resistance is currently based in East Africa, and we've got a lot of work to do to bring the planet back under humanity's control. Since this war is a lot different than the one we fought in Enemy Within, this overworld strategy subgame has changed too. We'll get reports of things going on in areas that we have contacts, which is currently just here, and we'll travel around to investigate. While we'll still get randomly generated missions just like in the last game, we'll also get opportunities to spend some time in an area to scavenge for supplies, gather intel, or recruit soldiers, scientists, or engineers. This will be the main way we staff up and get materials and currency for upgrades and upkeep. As we recruit a scientist to reduce research time and search for supplies on the overworld, our modular weapons research completes. This unlocks the ability to stick these weapon parts into our soldiers' weapons to enhance them. I put the autoloader on Lisa's shotgun, giving her a once-per-mission reload that doesn't cost an action to use. I also decide to name her gun the Freeloader, because that felt appropriate. We get a mission to recover some documents before they're destroyed by the enemy. We have 7 turns from the start of the mission to get to their location and claim them before they self-destruct. On the way there, we fight some squads of enemies, including the new and improved sectoids, who definitely have hit a growth spurt since Advent took over. But unfortunately, we don't succeed in getting to the documents in time, and we lose out on this chance to recruit an engineer to XCOM, which really kneecaps our progress for the next little while. Despite the mission being a failure, we do earn some promotions. Pablo, the new recruit who came along, becomes a ranger. Yvonne is promoted to corporal and gains medical protocol, which lets her send her gremlin drone to heal allies remotely. She gains an extra charge of this if she's carrying a medkit with her. Lisa, also a corporal now, gains Blade Master, which grants her +2 damage and +10 aim with sword attacks. Lisa and Rebecca are also now able to bond, which grants them some benefits based on their familiarity and compatibility. At a stage 1 bond like they have now, they get a once per mission buff where one can grant the other an extra action on their turn. The game asks me if I want to take a photo commemorating this growing bond, and what better time than now to talk about the propaganda system. This is essentially a glorified photo mode where you can pose your soldiers, set up nice background and camera effects, and add text. Or, if you're like me, you can mash randomize until the game gives you something appropriately amazing. And so our lesbian warrior princess propaganda machine begins. They're all out of bubblegum. We get contacted by the Council, or rather the Council chairperson, the only one who stayed loyal to XCOM while the others all fled to Advent in the wake of their victory. He instructs us on the need to make contact with the resistance leaders in West Africa and attack the Advent black site there to interrupt operations. Our scientists get in touch and tell me they've had a breakthrough. Breakthroughs and inspirations are the 2 new research mechanics offering temporary bonuses. With a breakthrough, a new research project is offered that will go away if you don't research it immediately. Usually something like a bonus to weapon damage, or in this case, a reduction in the cost of workshop construction in the future. Inspirations, on the other hand, offer a speed boost to an existing research project if you go for it right away. Otherwise, it will return back to a normal speed. I allow the scientists to research this breakthrough, and push them to do alien biotech right after, as the training facility construction also completes. Apparently, while we've been gone, Bradford has been brokering peace talks between 2 resistance factions, the Reapers and the Skirmishers. They hate each other, but they both respect our fight for freedom, and are willing to set aside their differences if we act as the moderators. As such, we're escorting 2 representatives to a neutral location to talk. We'll send 2 squads of 2 soldiers each. I send Pablo and Rebecca to go with the Reapers, and new recruits Yon Choi and Tina Grant for the Skirmishers. In Operation Lost and Abandoned, we make our way through a city that was left empty after the aliens' initial invasion. We get the first taste of what the Reapers bring to the table with Elena Dragonova, who has an advanced concealment called Shadow, which lets her stay hidden when the rest of our soldiers are discovered, and reduces the distance at which enemies can spot her while boosting her movement speed. Elena has a chance to stay in this concealment when taking actions such as firing her weapon, and she can re-enter it once per mission at will. She also has a cool remote explosive that can be thrown and detonated on a later turn by shooting it. With Elena in tow, we fight through hordes of the Lost, a new enemy type that arose in cities left abandoned after the aliens wiped out most of their population. These are essentially zombified civilians that attack in large waves. To offset their numbers, every shot that kills one refunds the action spent to do so, meaning in one turn, a soldier with good aim can kill as many Lost as they have ammo for. Working together, these 3 make it to the meeting spot without so much as a scratch. On the way, we even spotted one of our XCOM lesbian propaganda posters that somehow made it into this city that's remained untouched for 20 years. The second squad meets with the Skirmishers representative, Pray Tell Mox, and get ready to move towards the evac point themselves. Skirmishers have the ability to shoot before moving on their turn, or even twice per turn if they forfeit their movement. They also come with a grappling hook that they can use to get to high places, or use it to pull enemies to them to hit them with a melee attack. The 2 rookies and Mox fight their way through a squad of Advent purifiers wielding flamethrowers, before Mox sets off an explosion that draws a horde of the Lost to their location. Oh, that's one more thing about the Lost. They're attracted to loud sounds. While gunfire may not draw many, an explosion definitely will. The squad fight off a bunch of Lost while we wait for a new extraction zone to open up, and when it does, we successfully get him to the peace talks, with both representatives now escorted safely. Unfortunately, these talks are interrupted by the Assassin, a member of an elite alien squad called the Chosen. We'll have to fight her off if we want these groups to work together. The Assassin is essentially a boss enemy. She generates shields if we miss any shots against her, and she doesn't trigger Overwatch soldiers or any kind of reaction fire. Luckily, she has some weaknesses too. She takes increased damage from close range attacks like swords, and from Reaper attacks. While she's still invisible, we spread out and hunker down for the buff to our defense, since Overwatch won't do anything for us anyway. She appears and stuns Mox with a melee attack, then retreats and takes cover inside a bus, like a moron. This'll be easy. We throw some grenades to damage her and blow it up to damage her even more. This leaves her with low health and she retreats, but not before setting off a beacon that begins attracting most of the Lust in the surrounding area. We successfully fight our way to the extraction point, mowing down hordes of zombified humans. All of our soldiers make it there alive, but Mox is captured by the assassin just before he can get on the ship.
Time to return home, traitor.
With the mission somewhat successful, our crew returns home. Jan and Tina are promoted to Grenadier and Specialist, respectively. Rebecca becomes a Corporal and gains Returning Fire, letting her shoot her pistol back at an enemy attacker once per turn. Pablo also becomes a Corporal, gaining Phantom, which allows him to stay in concealment when the rest of the squad is discovered. Finally, we recruit the Reaper Elena, and she's promoted to a Corporal as well with the perk Remote Start, which lets her detonate one explosive within her line of sight with increased damage and blast radius. The assassin sends us a postcard from their own propaganda machine, taunting us for allowing Mox to be captured. I resolve to rescue him as soon as possible. For now, though, I think this is all we can do. This has been a pretty dense episode, but we have to cover a lot of new mechanics and concepts before we can really get into the thick of this war. Thanks again for joining me. The support that I saw for the first series has blown me away, and I'm really excited to get into this new one. Subscribe to follow along, like and comment to let me know how this was and to help more people see the video. I'll be back with the next chapter of our journey soon enough. See you then.